Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining today's webinar about applying for UK support, UK national delegate support into the ESA ARTES programme. My name is Henny Sands. I'm the head of telecommunications at the UK Space Agency, and I'm also the named national delegate for the ESA programme board as well. So the call that's open at the moment is what we refer to as the general call, and we'll be talking you through how the call works, how the program works in relation to ESA. But I just wanted to give a bit of context for how we organise our funding before we do. So this is what we refer to as the general call, and that's a nearly always open program where you can apply to us with your ideas, with as little definition from us as possible to help you frame your proposals to us. And that cycle of funding support for that program is open almost all year round. On top of that, we also have themed calls, which you'll see across the year. But we also run events and attend conferences and seminars across the year as well. So you'll probably see us in person at some point. Our next event, just to flag for everyone on the webinar today, will take place in Glasgow on the 18th of April, and we hope to see you there. I'll hand over to my colleague Tatum now.
Thank you very much, Henny. So just before we begin the webinar, it's just please could you note that this event will be recorded. We will be sharing a PDF copy of the slides after the event. If throughout the webinar you do have any technical issues, as a first instance, please do try to disconnect and dial back in. But if the issue does persist, our comms team will upload the recording of the webinar in due course. And you can also email any questions to our team mailbox as well. Okay, slide please. So welcome to the ESA ARTES programme applying to the UK for National Delegate Support webinar. As Henny said, my name is Tatum. For those of you who don't know me, I've joined the Telecoms team as a new industry engagement lead, and moderating today's session will be my colleague Rebecca, who you can't see, but she is in the background. So really the aim of today's webinar is to give you a walkthrough of the European Space Agency ARTES process that's now live with the funding call, which we announced on the 26th of February. But before we go any further, it's just worth making very clear that this guidance only refers to the technology development elements of the ARTES programme. It doesn't cover the business applications, processes and procedures. And firstly, as this is a live event, you won't be able to use your camera or microphone, but we have opened up the chat and Q&A sections. So please do feel free to use that at any point during the webinar. And you won't be visible to other attendees of the event when you do that. And if you do ask a question or use the chat function, please don't identify yourself. There should be a box to tick remain anonymous before you submit your question. And Rebecca and Henny will be monitoring the chat function throughout while I'm presenting, and they will endeavour to try and respond to your questions as we go. But any which are left at the end, we'll read out and answer them when I'm finished the formal part of the presentation. So to run through the agenda, so we'll provide an overview of the Telecoms team, so effectively who we are and what we do. I'll briefly go through what ARTES is, so that'll be the main aspects of the programme from the UK Space Agency perspective. Eligibility and criteria, so here we'll be referring to the UK National Delegate eligibility and criteria only. The European Space Agency have their own criteria, which you will need to review separately, and you can see that on their website if you do want further information on that. The application process, so we'll go into a bit more detail here on the process as it stands and what we consider the benefits to be to industry. On forms and guidance, we'll provide a brief run through of the forms that we use and elaborate on some of the sections where we sometimes get a little bit of confusion. And then finally, the complaints and feedback process, which we do have details on our website, but we can just highlight a couple of pertinent points on that. And then we'll finish with questions, as I mentioned a while ago. So slide, please. So who are we? Well, as we said, we're the telecommunications team, and within the UK Space Agency, we sit within the Investment Directorate, and our purpose is really to support the sector to grow in line with the National Space Strategy. In the UK Space Agency, there are two teams that manage the ESA Artist programme, Telecommunications, which is us, and Business Applications. Each team focuses on their own area of expertise, but both teams represent the UK national delegation. So in terms of what we do, in 2022, the UK subscribed some £190 million into the Artist Telecoms programme, and that will take us up to 2025. And the purpose of that is to support UK industry in developing the next generation of telecommunications products, services and applications. And all approved activities are funded through this subscription. As a telecoms team, we review and assess applications from industry and academia under the various programme lines of ARTES. We determine whether a project will benefit the UK and to what degree. We also sit on all relevant ESA boards. So, for example, the Joint Communications Board, which is the main ARTES board for all delegate nations. Slide, please. So in terms of what ARTES is, as it says on the slide, ARTES stands for Advanced Research in Telecommunications Systems. It's a research and development programme developed by the European Space Agency, and its purpose is to engage with European industry in order to develop innovation in products, services, applications and systems in order to gain a leading edge in the competitive global market. There are three fundamental elements to the ARTES programme. Advanced technology, these are typically definition studies or early technology developments, which are funded at up to 100%. There's a separate funding process for these activities, which can be found on our website. Core competitiveness, these are industry-led, co-funded activities that support the development of new and/or next-generation satellite communication products and technologies. And finally, partnership projects. These are typically longer-term co-funding activities where the risk is shared when investing in new technologies. Applications for these activities sit under a separate process, and again, updates will be posted on our website as and when they become available. And just finally, you may be interested to learn that we've seen a significant rise in the number of applications for funding under the ARTES programme. We now receive hundreds of applications each year across all of the different funding calls. This increase in interest and involvement from industry, from our perspective, is very positive and ultimately benefits both our stakeholders in the UK for the reason that it helps drive up the standard, quality and breadth of proposals. Slide, please. So let's have a quick look at the four programme lines under core competitiveness. Competitiveness and growth is a generic programme line. It's dedicated to the development of products for the satellite telecommunications market and could be any hardware, software, system, subsystem or services. The decision to award contracts is based on the potential for future commercial exploitation. 4S, which is otherwise known as safety and security. These types of projects focus on secure, integrated space systems, including climate and civil surveillance and protection, and both routine and crisis management systems for air, land and sea. Skylight is the third one, which covers optical and quantum communications. These projects are next level innovative technologies for connectivity and an ultra fast secure exchange of data. And then finally, Space for 5G. So ESA, European industry and the UK are all working together in order to integrate satellite technologies into communication networks and accelerate the rollout of 5G. Slide, please. So eligibility. To reiterate from earlier, we'll only be discussing the UK Space Agency's eligibility and criteria. Information on ESA's is on their website. So ARTES is a telecommunications programme. So the primary purpose of any project should be delivering telecommunication services, though it may also support other activities. Where activities are primarily for another purpose, such as Earth observation or something like climate monitoring, the project will not be supported. To be considered for UK national delegate support, you must be UK based, and for commercial companies, you must have a UK registration at Companies House. If you don't satisfy these conditions but are intending to establish a presence in the UK, you can reach out to our team through the group mailbox to discuss options. Products and services from non-UK suppliers may be included in proposals. However, applicants must both demonstrate their value to the UK and satisfy us that they have been unable to source the essential expertise from within the UK itself. Any non-UK spend requests should also be clearly stated at the proposal stage. They will not be supported if they have not been declared and approved at that time. Although the ESA website states that companies can apply for up to 80% funding, in the UK we have 2 funding level limits depending on the size of the company applying. For all large or non-small to medium enterprise companies, including those who are wholly owned by large companies or groups of companies, or for very high value programmes, we will match fund up to 50%. For all other small to medium enterprise companies, we will match fund up to 75%. This may, however, be capped at 50% depending on the size of the programme. Ultimately, all match funding decisions remain at the discretion of the UK Space Agency. The UK Space Agency will not fund licensing or regulatory compliance activities, either in the UK or overseas, and this includes spectrum filings. These may be included in your ESA project, but they should not be match funded activities. Lastly, the UK will only support travel and subsistence costs at the matched funded rate where they are reasonable. Any additional or non-essential costs must be financed by the applicant. If we do not consider costs to be reasonable, your project may be delayed or could even be rejected. Slide, please. On criteria, there will be 5 criteria which applicants will be judged against as shown in the diagram. So we'll be asking approach and methodology. So is there a well-considered approach to the project with clear objectives? Financial return. So this will be whether there'll be a satisfactory return to the UK. Innovation. So is the goal of the programme challenging or innovative enough to warrant support? Supply chain. So are the benefits of the proposal suitably distributed within a sustainable UK supply chain? And then finally, wider benefits. So are there wider direct or indirect benefits from the programme? Successful bids should be able to demonstrate a balance across these criteria, but we reserve the right to consider proposals which give greater weight to some more than others. It's important to note that all applications will be considered in competition with all other proposals we receive. And we also reserve the right to reduce the funding requested if for any reason we don't consider a proposal is sufficiently strong. Slide, please. So looking at what we consider to be the benefits to industry, there's several important benefits. The application process is now more accessible and transparent. The information requirements are better targeted and more clearly mapped against the ESA outline proposal, simplifying the process as a whole. We have removed unnecessary duplication of documents and information. The process provides applicants with a framework and a timetable, reducing wait time and giving clearer outcomes. You will be kept aware of how your application is progressing via regular updates and will understand how the final decision is made. Critically, we have also introduced a complaints process so we can capture all feedback, including negative, and understand where things have gone wrong or could have been done better. We know companies often hesitate to complain where funding decisions are involved, and we want to capture feedback and provide an escalation route for when you think you need it. Slide, please. So this is the current application process. So as we've already stated, the competition is now open as of the 26th of February. Applicants should visit our website and familiarise themselves with the forms and guidance. You'll be able to download the expression of interest form. The first step is then to submit your completed expression of interest form to us by the deadline of midday on Friday the 12th of April. We will review your expression of interest form and contact you the week commencing Monday the 6th of May to let you know if it's something that we will consider funding. And if so, we will invite you to complete the cover sheet and outline proposal. Please do not complete the cover sheet and outline proposal unless you have been expressly invited to do so by the Space Agency. All cover sheets and outline proposals must be submitted by midday on Monday the 17th of June, and the competition will close on this date. The UK National Delegation will review and consider your application against others received. And on the week commencing Monday the 8th of July, applicants will be contacted and informed of the panel outcome. If your application is successful, you may proceed to apply into the European Space Agency. However, if your application is unsuccessful, we will write to you detailing the reasoning behind that decision. Slide, please. So competition periods. The process for applying for funding for core competitiveness activities, including change requests on existing programmes, has changed. Where it used to be possible to apply at any time, we've now introduced 3 open calls per year, which helps us to deal more efficiently and effectively with the volume of applications we received. As you'll see from the diagram, there's now winter, spring and summer competitions, and the current call which is open is a spring competition. Please note, however, that the process for bidding for advanced technology and for minor contract change notices remains unchanged. You can still apply throughout the year for funding for these types of activities. If you're considering a CCN on an existing project, you should read the online guidance. But if you're still unsure at that stage which route to take, then please do contact us to ask. Slide, please. So moving on to the forms. Submitting an expression of interest form is the first stage of the application process. All applicants must submit one which provides a summary of what you're proposing to do. Slide, please. So as I just mentioned, this form provides a summary of what you're proposing to do. We strongly suggest and hope to see more companies submit more expression of interest to trial their ideas before they invest time in working up full applications. I won't go through the entire form as hopefully most of it is self-explanatory. However, just to pick out a couple of areas. So number 1.1 is the project title, and this is the project title which you give your own project. It's nothing that the UK Space Agency allocates. 1.2 is the technology area, and this refers to either the ground, space, network, component, service or systems. And then 1.6 is potential benefits to the UK. Whatever options you select here, we will expect to see demonstrated in your application form. So for example, if you select the S for social, we expect to see those further developed in the form. Slide, please. Let's now turn to the application form. This is the form that we use for all strategic programme line applications in this competition period. It requires applicants to provide a greater level of detail than before. It asks for information on your organisation, on the project itself, the business case, financial projections, and any assessed wider benefits. Although the application form is longer, we have tailored and focused our line of questioning for each section in order to correlate it with the European Space Agency outline proposal. The aim is to align the process of applying for funding from UK Space Agency with the European Space Agency. All this is to ensure that we have, as far as possible, all the information we need to move forward with your application. Our intention is this will reduce the time that both parties have to spend on clarifications and discussions, and as a result will expedite the decision-making process. Slide, please. So as with the expression of interest, I won't go through the entire form as it's relatively self-explanatory, but just to highlight a few areas that sometimes cause confusion. So box 1.4, which is the total project value. This is the total project value for the entire project, including all partner elements. 1.5 is the funding requested, and this is a total funding request for all partners, not just the prime. Slide, please. 5.2 is the funding request cost. If there are partners to the proposal, please provide a breakdown of how the funding support will be split between them. So this should be done in euros and percentage terms. The aim is to provide a more focused breakdown of what funding you are requesting and for what purpose. And then 5.5 is the ESA funding line. If you're unsure, please leave this blank and we can always discuss the appropriate funding line with you upon review. And 5.6 is the essential non-UK expenditure. As I mentioned previously, you must include any non-UK spend requests in the form. Applications will not be supported if these spends have not been declared and approved. You will need UK Space Agency approval for non-UK expenditure in order to progress your application to the European Space Agency, and your proposal may well be delayed or even rejected. Slide, please. And then finally, 10.2, which is the declaration. Please note that by signing this box, you're confirming that everything that you have included in the form is correct and true. If we discover discrepancies in the full proposal, we reserve the right to withdraw our support. Slide, please. We do strive to provide excellent customer service to all clients, and we welcome feedback. If for any reason you're unhappy with how your application was managed, you will be able to make a complaint using our complaints and feedback process. In the first instance, we will try to resolve your complaint within our team. If that's not possible, we will refer the complaint to the UK Space Agency Central Complaints process, where it will be independently assessed. Right, thank you very much for listening, and I will now hand back to Rebecca as the moderator.